What if you could live your life judgment-free? Are you ready to live the unapologetic, confident life that God designed for you? If you are, then this is the place to be. Welcome to the Bold, Brave, and Sassy Show. It's time to break free of physical, spiritual, and heart-centered challenges that have held you back for way too long. Listen in for powerful tips and tools to help you break free today. Hear from leading experts along with me, Annie Berryhill, your host and personal guide to freedom. Now it's time to live like no one's judging. Let's go. Well, hey there, everybody. This is Annie Berryhill, and this is the Bold, Brave, and Sassy Show. Thank you so much for being here right now, and I am excited, as usual, to share an awesome person with you today. Today, we're going to be featuring Jennifer Bennett, and I want to give you a little bit of the professional background that she shared with me to extend to you so you understand what she's all about, and then I have a little bit more personal stuff. But she is a social media communication strategist, and her passion is to help organizations with strategy, implementation, and training as they relate to an online presence. She's been able to assist a variety of leaders in creating their voice and brand awareness on some of the largest social media platforms. Jennifer is also passionate about helping those in leadership see how the social media presence can truly change and impact the lives of others and how they can be #BeWorthFollowing. To learn more about Jen and her new book of the same name, #BeWorthFollowing, How to Be Different and Influence People in a Crowded Social World, you can connect with her at drjenbennett.com. And I will remind you of that later, but I want to welcome my friend, the wonderful Jen Bennett, to the Bold, Brave, and Sassy Show. How are you, my friend?
I am good, and it's just so good to be here and to see you and to just be a part of this, and I'm so excited for you, and I love that you're doing this, and so, yeah, I'm just absolutely thrilled.
Well, congratulations on your book. It's so good. It's an interesting dichotomy because it's very easy to read, but it has got a ton of depth. And I really encourage people to read it, but also to read it not in a hurry, because there's a lot of nuggets, a lot of nuggets in there. And it's, like I said, it's a simple read, but it is deep. So congratulations on that. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. That book was 4 or 5 years in the making, and it took a lot longer for me to get it out there than what I thought it would, but I'm so happy that it is now out there and that people are being blessed by it and learning from it and really ultimately being encouraged by it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think encouragement is something that inspires a lot of writers to actually get their message out there. And then we meet up with that resistance and that enemy who wants to block the encouragement that we want to send into the world. I mean, I know my book took 3 years to write partially because I wasn't that serious about writing it. But then when I gave myself a deadline, I finished it in 6 months. And I mean, so I understand it's a challenge, but I don't know about you, but sometimes when I reread my book, I don't think I wrote it. I'm like, I don't remember writing that. Like, it was such an out of body experience and was done over time. So like the whole experience of writing a book really from your heart, I think is that same idea. Like I always say, I open my mouth and God pops out. Like I just started typing or I started sharing and just God popped out onto the page. Yes. And so I feel like I can't even take credit for it, but you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I do the same thing. I'll look through certain pages or passages in the book and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Right. And it's so funny because when the book was finally released, and I don't know if you experienced this either, but when the book was finally released, I felt like, I don't know, like under attack. Like I started getting so anxious about everything. Like, oh my gosh, like what did I write here? Oh my gosh, what are people going to think about that? And you start almost second guessing yourself. And it's almost like this obstacle you have to overcome to get your message out there that you know you were meant to write and put out there. And so I don't know if you experienced that, but every little time when I met with a publisher that was possibly interested in it, I started freaking out. When it was released, I started freaking out. I don't know. And I'm assuming other writers have dealt with this, but it was It was just crazy. I mean, it's truly like a birthing process when you are putting a book out.
It's very true. And when you were talking, I was just sort of seeing this vision of giving birth, because my experience was a little bit more of like the relief of giving birth. Like there's nothing I can do about it now, you know. It is what it is, you know. Right. I'm not going backwards. I'm not putting it back in. You know, this is it. And yeah, it's really such an interesting process, which really does relate to anything creative that comes out of our souls, that comes out of the depth of who we are and with the gifts that God gave us. And I think too, the creative process is so close to like our innermost self that it's the scariest thing to put out there, because it's so vulnerable.
Right.
For the reasons
it really
you said,
is.
You know, and we can always worry that somebody somewhere is not going to like it. And I can tell you with 100% assurance that it's true.
Yep.
But we also can't get caught up in the someones who we don't even know that are having an opinion about something that we, you know, did from the heart, that, you know, we felt like inspired to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just, I don't know. It's a really awesome experience. And it kind of brings me back to, you know, the idea of your book. It's really tied into that, because at any particular time in our life, whether we're sharing our innermost creative ideas and plans and, you know, projects, even just sharing a little bit about ourselves puts us at risk nowadays on social media for being criticized. Or somebody somewhere to disagree with our opinion, our position, our viewpoint of things. So tell me a little bit about what you've experienced and really what you encourage people, how you encourage people to sort of insulate themselves without making them, you know, a ghost on social media.
Yeah, I think there's boundaries that you have to put in place. Like for me personally, when it comes to social media, there are certain things that I will talk about on social media and certain things that I will not talk about on social media. And the reason being is because I think sometimes what we truly believe or think can get lost in translation. And then what ends up happening is you share certain things on social media, whether it's like a hot topic or everybody's talking about this or that, and you share it, and then your words can be taken a certain way when maybe you didn't mean that. And then before you know it, you find yourself in this online debate, argument. I mean, we see this all the time. And so for me, I've set up certain boundaries on things that I will talk about, things that I will not talk about, because I think some conversations are better over the phone, in person, over Zoom, you know, rather than just through a social media platform like Facebook. Now, with that being said, there are certain things that I'm very outspoken about, you know, things that I share freely. One of them being just my faith. That's super important to me. And it's been very interesting because I have a lot of people that I'm connected with on social media that follow me that do not share the same faith or belief that I do, but yet we have great conversations because we know how to treat each other, you know, well, and it's led to deeper conversations. And so, I think you just have to know for yourself what will work on social media for you and what will not work on social media for you, and setting up those healthy boundaries.
I think that's great advice. You know, open-hearted people are the ones that tend to get trampled on the most because they're the least likely to set boundaries.
Right.
And it's awesome to be open-hearted. That is, you know, being able to receive and give like the fullness of love. But you wouldn't walk around literally with your chest open. That's why we have a rib cage. We need to have our hearts protected.
Yeah.
You know? And the world is not going to do that for us. Yes, we might have a husband or a parent or, you know, someone around us who can stand in our, you know, and defend us, but that's not realistic because they're not with us all the time. You know, I think there's, and also there's a balance in between not being authentic because you're not saying what you believe because you're afraid that you're going to get into it with someone or someone's going to disagree, but you got to take a little bit of that risk sometimes. Or do you? I mean, I don't know. What's the answer there?
Yeah, for me, it's, and this may sound weird, but for me, it's really about whether or not I'm being led to share something, and if I'm being led to share something specific that could be a hot topic on social media, then I know that I'm not just putting it out there just to put it out there. I'm putting it out there for a reason. I've been led to put it out there. And there have been times where I've put stuff out there and I've received some comments of people questioning what I've written. And it's been really cool to see how God has taken like what he had for me to put out there, what I felt led to put out there, and in turn be able to respond to the person in such a way that doesn't put them on guard or on the defense or different things like that. And that's actually one of the things that people have always told me, because I think a lot more people probably are watching my posts rather than commenting. But I've gotten comments before from people. They're saying, Jen, you have a really unique way of responding to people who don't agree with you, but yet still being firm and yet still being kind towards the person who doesn't maybe see things the way you see things, or opening up that dialogue. And so I think a big part of it is we have to know whether or not we are led to share certain things on there. Because if we're not led and we're just kind of spewing at the mouth, then yeah, get ready. There's going to be some things that you're going to have to deal with. And unfortunately, a lot of those times, posts that just kind of spewing at the mouth, just coming off, end up turning into those debates and arguments. And I'll tell you, there's been multiple times where I've wanted to respond to something and I'm like typing away, and then I'm like, Jen, and I erase it and I hold back. And then I realize, that was the best thing that I could have done, given myself time to think through, not just spew my thoughts out there, and instead get back to, normal Jen, not the heated Jen, the Jen that just wants to, maybe say something that she shouldn't say. I hope that all makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And one of the things, going back to the very first thing you said, was like, when I'm led to say something, I feel like we get supernatural backup.
Yes.
Like we're not going in alone. Whereas if we go in the spewing situations where we're just firing things off because we're really ticked off or we're really annoyed or really offended, all those words, like you got to do a gut check.
Yes.
To what end? What is the outcome that you are hoping for on a social media platform, all social media platforms that are essentially really flat, like they're like a cardboard. They're only one dimensional.
Right.
There's no tonality. There's no, you can convey in words empathy and sympathy, but it's so flat. It's not the same. It's really doing a gut check and saying like, what is the purpose of me spewing? What am I hoping will happen? And sometimes we don't take that time to do that. And then we end up in the no spiritual backup situation when we're going and all our angels and God are sitting there going, well, get on with your bad self, but I don't think that's going to be a good outcome, Okay, they just kind of go, put their hands up by their faces and kind of go, I don't know what she's up to, but let's see how this rolls, And I think it's really important that's another way of having a boundary in a sense. And I don't know about you, but I've actually posted at times where I said, I think I have erased more posts than I've ever posted.
Yep.
Good sense gets to me. And there's been times early on in social media where somebody sent me a private message, someone I didn't really know, but we had a difference of opinion, and they sent me a message and it was scathing and it was just opinion, you're wrong, you're bad, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I'm a fighter, man. I don't back down from stuff. And I'm like, bring it, brother, let's go. And I'll be like, brr, 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 typing really fast, and I'll read it to my husband. He's like, but why?
Right.
Why are you even giving it any time or energy?
Right.
Oh, you're right again. Delete.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, why are you so wise?
And I think a big part too is I think we have to know what's our purpose for being on social media. Because if you don't know what your main purpose is for being on social media, then yes, you will get caught up in all of the nonsense that's out there. For me, my purpose for being on social media is to motivate, inspire, and encourage specifically the hearts of women. Because at one point I read research that stated that, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it basically said that the majority of women come to social media to be encouraged, but like only 14%, 10% of women actually end up leaving social media encouraged. They actually end up feeling worse. And we know, we've seen this when they leave social media. And so for me, my purpose on social media is to encourage the hearts of women, to inspire them, to motivate them. And at times I do share some, educational posts, but mostly it's to inspire and encourage. And so I think when we have a clear understanding of why we are on social media, then we can always run our posts through that test of, okay, does this line up with who I am and why it is that I'm on social media? And if it doesn't, then okay, I don't need to be posting this.
Exactly. And I have such a love-hate. I have gone to quit social media so many times. And I find it very useful from a business perspective because it really is about connecting with people that I don't know yet and providing value and, being able to have a new audience to share what God is showing me and the people that I know that have something to encourage them. And I'm totally with you. Like, I don't want to post on social unless it's encouraging, inspiring, funny, thought-provoking, and I don't really have the expectation that someone's going to agree with me. In fact, it's funny, I had a lot of friends who share the same political sort of side that I'm on, although I'm not as sidey as they might be. But there are a lot of people I know who are family members, who are dear to me, who share, an opinion on the other side. And so during the election cycles and everything like that, there was just so much debate and hatred and ugliness. Mm-hmm. And, the temptation is to disconnect from those people. But I think, social media, if you can insulate yourself from being offended, which is,
right,
Satan's tool, right, to drive a wedge between people, is just being able to say, hey, I actually never thought about that side of the story. And if we eliminate everyone who makes us mad or disagrees with us, we also eliminate the possibility that we could learn and grow and at least be able to look at things from another side. So really the key to successful social media is, like you said, know why you're on there, and also, not take it personally.
Right. Exactly. Because the reality is it's a tool. And if we are taking everything that somebody says personally, then the reality is we probably need to get off of social media. Because there's going to be people that will say something, they'll leave a negative comment, they'll question you. And so, if it's affecting you to where you're questioning who you are, what you've been created to do, then you have to really ask yourself, should I be on this platform? I just read a post from a lady the other day. And she basically said she's getting off of social media for a while because she has realized time and time again that the comparison is just too much for her. And she's consistently comparing herself to others. And she knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that she needs to get off for some time. And so I think it's super important that you be able to look at yourself and know, okay, is it time for me to have a break? Because this part of social media is impacting this part of my life, and it's not good. It's not healthy. And I need to step away from it.
It's really important. And that's such a foundational piece about why I did this show, because the idea was, and I've said this before, for me, even the name of the show was, I was asked the question, what are you committed to? And what do you have to be in order to do that? And the first thing that came in my mind was bold, brave, and sassy. And sassy is unapologetically confident in who you are. Now, here's the foundational, fundamental problem with getting off social media to insulate yourself and protect yourself from comparison. You're not getting away from it. You're just not getting as strong of a dose. The key actually is rooted in establishing your identity and being solid and confident in that to be able to withstand whatever somebody says about you. Because if you know who you are, who God made you to be, it's like, you're like Teflon. right? You're like, well, that's an interesting opinion, but I know that I am, right?
Right. And I think sometimes when women specifically give themselves that break from social media, instead of watching the lives of everybody else, but yet seeking the one who created them to gain a better understanding of who they are, I think that in turn will help them then be able to be a part of social media without comparing themselves. And I think that's part of the issue. Is I think most women, not most, but a good amount of women just don't know who they are because they're spending so much time following the lives of everybody else rather than spending their time with the one who created them so they can have a better understanding of who they are.
Exactly. Because there's that whole idea of that understanding of who we are, but it's also the walking it out. If I am this, how do I show up in the world?
Yeah.
How am I acting on social media? How am I with my kids when no one's looking? How am I? And we're not different people.
Right.
We're unapologetically confident in who God designed us to be. That's what sassy is to me. That is like that little girl who's 8 years old. She's got her shoulders back. She's strutting down the street. She's got a dress on with shorts and mismatched socks and whatever she wants to wear because she thinks she looks good. Right? This is who she is. And like, to me, that's like the ultimate, like you walk through life, not barreling people over, but you're impervious to that when you do that. And the way that you learn cerebrally, you stay close to him, you get in the word, you understand what he's designed you to be, but you also start living it out. Right?
Yes. And when you can do that, then you can celebrate the success of other women. Yeah.
Completely. You look forward to it. You cannot wait to encourage women and other people in that. And I find it so interesting in life. And I feel like I'm such a weirdo, but I see people in such a unique way. And I feel like sometimes God gives me his eyes because I can see someone and their outward and the wear and tear of life, or even like their face that just conveys this, I'm not happy, negative darkness. Yeah. But it's like, sometimes like this even makes me want to cry because I feel like under that surface, there is a hurting person who just wants to be whole.
Yeah.
And when we spend our time on social media, even like subconsciously being subjected to this comparison thing, we're always, again, not feeling good enough. Hello, that's the enemy's tactic to women. You are not worthy. You are not beautiful enough. You are not capable enough. Do more stuff and prove it.
Right.
No, be.
Yep.
Ooh.
Exactly. And I think sometimes too, we see the stories of other people on social media and we're like, wait a minute, why doesn't my story, my life look like theirs? That was my dream. Why does she get to live her dream out and I don't? And so then we find ourselves again in this trap of, why doesn't my life look like that? I've worked super hard. Why did my life turn out this way? Or my life is boring. My life doesn't have all of these fun adventures that this other person has. And so, yeah, again, boundaries, knowing who we are, knowing why we've been created, and taking joy in our unique story. And I know for one, my story, my life story has turned out very differently than what I thought it would when I was 18 years old, and I've had to overcome obstacles and challenges and hurt from people. But yet through all of that, I can still take joy in my story because I see where it's led me to certain things that I would have never have imagined for myself. And so again, being able to see our story in light of who we've been created to be.
It's so exciting actually when we shift our expectations from being all about us and controlling. And yes, we are very egocentric creatures. We just are, right? That's the challenge, right?
Right.
That's why the surrender is so hard. You have to do it daily, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, when we can just like take a step back from this, clenching so hard to these dreams and these things that we think we want and step back and go, the creator of everything, creator, the creative one who created everything from every kind of bug and fish and cloud formation, right? He created all of this. How much more creatively can he carve my path than I can?
Right.
Even my biggest dream is tiny compared to what he can do for us when we say, you know what, Lord, I don't know. This is kind of what I talk about in my book too, is like understanding like your package, like the way you're wired, your personality type, the way you go about your business, your values, all these things. And it's kind of like the little suitcases we get to take in a good way. It's our tools.
Right.
And he can use those in a million ways. Right. But we get so focused. And this was just that when you were talking, this was like the little vision I saw in my head. It's like we're walking down this path and we're so focused on the left side looking for a daisy, right? And all just barren fields, right? There's no daisies. And we're like getting more and more mad. Like, we're all daisies. I want a daisy. But all the while to the right is a giant field of roses.
Right.
Completely covered. And we're so focused on putting our foot down and demanding that we're going to rub the genie in the lamp and he's going to give us the daisies, that we miss the roses.
So true.
Right?
So true. And my heart sinks at that because I wonder how many people are missing the true joy of life and everything that I feel like God is like, look at what I'm doing here. Stop looking over there. Look at what I've provided for you right here, right now.
Yes.
And we miss it because we're so busy looking at all the other stuff.
Exactly. And to tie it into social media, I mean, how many people, I am 100% guilty of this, go on social media when they're bored, right? How many people go on social media when they don't want to do something else? Right? They're avoiding something. How many, and then at the same time, now they're filled with this anxiety, this stress that I'm not doing enough. I'm not being enough who I am. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not rich enough. My husband's not famous enough, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like, go on. Like it's just, and it's so subtle because you think you're going on there to go like connect with people and find out what's going on in the world, but it's a trap sometimes, especially if you go in there low.
Yes.
There are funny videos and there are encouraging things, but it's sort of like the human language. There's, 20 negative to 1 positive. It's one of those things that it's guard your heart. It's insulate yourself and open your eyes to what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We're not warring against other people. We're warring against those principalities that are so subtle and not seen with our eyes. But they're written in the words. They're written in the intent.
Yep.
Right?
And ultimately what ends up happening is we end up not living out our unique story, and we end up not being used the way that God had always intended to use us to make an impact in this world. And that's sad, because we end up missing out on a part of our life that was planned for us a long time ago. And I think the enemy would love nothing more than to keep us on the sidelines, to keep us comparing our lives to others, because he knows when he can do that, then we are not living our full life and we're trapped.
Exactly. By fear, by the fear that the comparison creates fear.
Yep.
All of these things. And it reminds me again of the parable of the talents, exactly what you said. We have the choice to take what God's given us,
right?
All the things, even our weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. And we can either sow them and grow them, or we can bury them and keep only the basics. Like he sees what our heart is and knows what we're willing to do. And it's, for most people, it's not a one-time thing. It's a progressive thing. It's a little more trust every day. It's a little more surrender every day. It's a little more like he gives you little nuggets. You go, oh, well, that turned out kind of cool. That was kind of fun. I feel really full and alive right now. Maybe I'll do a little more.
Right.
And he brings us along so long as we're willing. And that's what I think so many people miss out on is they want the immediate gratification. So they're not willing to do the long haul. Guilty.
Yeah, I think we all are.
I'm older now, so I take things a little bit slower. So I'm not as, hell bent to get everything right now. I know things take time. But I think we need to encourage each other too, that it's okay to try and fail. You would know this better than me, Miss, Bible scholar, but
well, I don't know about that.
But the times in the Bible, like I find this to me, because I'm such an action person. I'm always about I'm totally Peter, ready, fire, aim. I'm totally the person who will run into the wall to figure out how to get around the wall. I'll run into it. I'll try to climb it. That's me. That's my personality. Right. But I do think that there's a corresponding theme in the Bible where God doesn't do something and doesn't show up until we're knee deep in the action. Like we're up to our necks in the water and we don't know if we're going to drown because we don't know that God's going to part the seas.
Oh yes. One of my favorite talks is on the story of Lazarus. And here you've got Lazarus dying, dead, and his sisters, who were very close to Jesus, right. Mary and Martha, say, Jesus, come, our brother's dying. And Jesus waits, 3 more days? And by the time he gets to Lazarus, Lazarus is dead. And so there's this part there where in that passage, specifically in the Message Bible, it says, you are about to be given new grounds for believing. And I think that is such a powerful statement because so many times in our lives, we want things done now. And yet God takes us through these obstacles and challenges because he wants to give us new grounds for believing. And we want control. We want things to happen right now on our timetable. We want to get it done. But the whole time, Jesus is saying, nope, wait up. I've got this perfectly planned out. And so I love that passage because I think no matter what it is in life that we're hoping for, yearning for, wanting to see God do, wanting to see God move, and, we're on social media and we're seeing it happen in the lives of other people. But I think the whole time God's saying to us, hold up, you're about to be given new grounds for believing. So just sit still and watch what I do.
I love that. It's fun. I'm so visual. I see things in pictures all the time. And as you're saying that, I can see the image of feet on ground, like in Jesus's time where I see sandaled feet on dirt ground. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting to me because in the waiting, it's not just about developing patience and trust. He's building faith muscles.
That's right.
For the path ahead. You and I both love to work out. And so we know the value of training and lifting, running, doing whatever, having this goal set out in front of us, but knowing the difference between where we are now and where we want to be takes time and effort and consistency and focus and commitment. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's no different. The change can't happen without discomfort. And I think so many times the reason we want things immediately is because we immediately want relief from our feelings.
Right.
Mary and Martha couldn't stand the fact that Lazarus could die and then did die, and they couldn't rectify their feelings. They were so angry at him.
Right.
Like it was his fault because they knew that he could save him.
And you're my friend. Why didn't you come?
Of all people.
Right.
In the inner circle.
Right. Like, please, I thought we were good friends,
Exactly. But and again, we see things in such tiny ways because we're these little puny humans that don't have the eternal perspective.
Yeah.
Right. We can only see so far because we can see what he wants to show us in the supernatural realm, which not everybody really recognizes, I think, but we literally can only see with our own eyes. And we tend to not trust that long-term game that he's got going for us is actually happening.
Exactly.
But if we could just daily, like I do this with my kids, I spend a lot of time away from my kids and they're grown men, for crying out loud. Like that's what I got to remember, They are grown men. And I find myself, those days when the enemy wants to lead me down the worry path, to stop and say, like, I either trust God or I don't. There is no gray area. If one iota of me is not trusting God, it's not trusting God.
Right.
So again, talk about identity. We have to reconnect ourselves with who he is and his promises and his character. So it's complex, and it's a really funny place to end up as we're talking about social media, but it all plays into it.
It does. It does. We have to know who we are, because when we don't know who we are and who we've been created to be, then we're going to find ourselves in those traps when we're on social media, and then we're not going to fully live into who we're supposed to be.
Exactly. And I did find that is very much a theme throughout your book, which is really, really encouraging to, combat the temptation to feel bad about who you are on social media with the truth of what God says and who God says you are and who he is.
Right.
And that's really such a sweet spot. And that's why I say, like, it's a simple book. It's simply written in the fact that it's like, it's not got a ton of science and places you have to go. Like, it's literally,
and that's so not me.
Right. I mean, it is literally written so you can receive this and apply it, but it is very deep and important. And I think that if you haven't read it, I know I got the Kindle version, so Be Worth Following is the name of Jen Bennett's book. And Jen, I hope that you will come back and we can tackle some more really important topics, because I think this was a smoking hot time together. Like, we dug in the serious stuff and had some fun. I mean, what do you think? You come back?
Absolutely. Yes. I love you. I love our friendship. I would love to. I think it's great. And I love what you're doing with all of this. This is awesome to see.
This is really fun. And, I often say, if you've ever listened to this show before, if you haven't, I just try to just follow what God has for me. I don't know where it's going. I'm really just relinquishing that to him to make it as beautiful as he wants it to be. But at the end of the day, like you said before, to just be an encouragement. And that word encourage has so many meanings. And I tend to like the meaning that says kick somebody's butt, implore them, like, listen, sister, you're not getting around this. I like that kind of encouragement. It's not so much the stroke the back encouragement that I'm about.
Right.
Like, enough already. Grab the life that was meant for you. Come on.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just been such an awesome treat. And thank you so much for being here. And we will have all of Jen's links in the show notes, and that'll be at boldbravessassyshow.com or annieberryhill.com, both places. And again, Jen, thank you. We look forward to having you back again.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I loved it.
All right. Awesome.